Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about what lenses and bodies are best for real estate photography and the most cost-effective solutions. And at the end, we're also going to be talking about the lenses and bodies that I use in my real estate photography business. So stick around for that. So the first thing we're going to quickly discuss is why go crop over full frame? And it pretty much boils down to the law of diminishing returns. If you, for example, go from a point and shoot or a phone camera to a DSLR, you're making a huge jump in quality and the price is really commensurate with that jump. But if you go from a crop sensor to a full frame sensor, you're really paying about twice as much for the overall equipment setup, and yet you're not seeing that return in the quality and the functionality of the system. And then there's also the fact that you can buy really cheap backup bodies when you have a crop system. It's for these reasons that I really highly recommend crop sensors for real estate photography. You're going to get all the quality you need, yet you're going to save a lot of money and your return on investment is going to be a lot better. So save your money, and we're going to get in there and discuss some of the crop bodies I recommend. So the crop bodies I'm currently recommending for Nikon are the D7500, the D500, and the D7200. They're all essentially great options. You can go with the one that's most cost effective for you. But for me, every once in a while, I want that 4K ability when I'm doing video. And that way you can have a really large frame, and in post-production, you can kind of do fake sliding techniques with no need for a slider. And that's really great. We're getting a train going by, but it's just really great to have that 4K functionality. Personally, if somebody stole all my bodies today, all my Nikon bodies, I'd probably buy a D7500 for myself. It has the 4K, it has a D500 sensor, and it's just pretty much a perfect meld for us in real estate photography of the quality and the functionality, and then a pretty good price, I'd say. And one of the great things about going crop, of course, you can get these cheaper backup bodies, and the one I would recommend right now for Nikon would be the D7000, okay? It's a great camera, it has a low number of megapixels. You might even end up wanting to shoot a lot of your homes with the D7000 because it has that kind of easier to handle file sizes. You can move faster with that in post-production. If you want to go Canon, I really recommend the 80D. This is just a high quality body, it takes great video. It just has all the functionality you need, and you don't need to go any higher than that, okay? It's a great body. And for those of you who are interested in Sony, I do have a few talking points about the Sony crop systems. I just feel there's a couple drawbacks with the Sony system that aren't present with the Nikon and the Canon, so I really recommend you go with the Nikon or Canon. First of all, impressions do matter, and I know the Sony system is totally capable of taking great photos and video. But the thing is, if you're going to be showing up at a first-time shoot for first-time clients with a little kind of camera that looks kind of like a toy, which I feel like the Sony does, I know it's great, I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying I don't think that camera would look good as you're coming in as a big professional photographer, okay? And I've even heard very valid comments in the past of wedding photographers, and they'll put like big rigs on their camera just to make their clients feel like, oh wow, look at this. And that point with the Sony, I think, is a real strong point in terms of disadvantage of the system. You're coming into, let's say you get a big real estate shoot, first time client, and you come in with this little camera that's smaller than your iPhone. I mean, it's just, I don't think it looks great, okay? The Sony system is also currently not usable with a CAMRANGER. For me, the CAMRANGER is really an integral part of my whole overall kind of workflow, and I just couldn't go without that. Maybe you can. I know there's a Sony app and all that, and people have workarounds for it, but for me, that's a really big drawback for the Sony system. I also feel like with the Sony system, you're having to put lens adapters on there to get certain lenses on the camera. The truth is, I don't really know in depth how this works exactly, but I feel like it might be a little bit more difficult, maybe even impossible, to get lens profiles from Adobe when you have an adapter on there and then a lens on the Sony system. I just feel like that might be more complicated, and lens profiles are just so integral in interiors work. You have to have that down because it's such a time saver. You just have to have that. And if Sony causes a problem with that, with the adapters and all that, I don't know, you can leave a comment if you feel like it doesn't cause a problem. But my point is just, I feel like that might cause a problem because you're putting the adapter on, you're putting another lens on, and that combination may not have a lens profile. All right, we're on to wide angle lenses, and this is really the heart of your interiors work. You want to have something that's really great quality, you don't want to try and get the cheapest option here. You want to get the best option for crop sensors. And the focal length also sort of has to match up with what you need. So my 3 recommendations for crop sensor glass are the Tokena 11-16, the Tokena 11-20, which I really think outdoes the Tokena 11-16. You can just get that little extra range that you're going to need. And then the Tamron 10-24. I see people recommending these prime lenses for real estate photography, and I honestly, this is one of those things where I just could not disagree more. Prime lenses for real estate photography, if you know what you're doing and you've been through 10 million houses, I think a prime lens can work. And so personally, that's why I feel like I see really experienced photographers recommending them, because they're nice lenses and they can set their tripod where they know it needs to be and they're gonna move, right? But for you, you're just getting into this. If you're in, say, a kitchen in a kind of open space in a home and you have a prime lens on, you're gonna be moving your tripod a little bit forward, a little bit back, a little bit. You're gonna be doing that like 3 and 4 times for every shot. You just do not wanna be doing that for every single one of your shots. I mean, it's ridiculous. So stay well away from prime lenses. I know some people will say I'm wrong, but just listen to me, believe me, you want to be able to zoom. You're gonna be able to do all that whole process of walking your tripod back and forth to get your combination with a little, you know, just a little turning of your zoom ring. I mean, that's just crazy. Even in a little bedroom, sometimes at 12 millimeters, I'm getting a little too much and I just zoom in a little bit. I mean, you can't imagine if you're making, you know, 30 photos in a house, how much time that can save you moving your tripod, you know, a foot forward and then maybe 6 inches back, like every shot. You know, that's ridiculous. Stay away from prime lenses for real estate photography, especially when you're starting out. And the other thing I'll note about prime lenses is, again, it's just that law of diminishing returns. You're just not seeing the advantages for all the drawbacks that it gives you. You're just not seeing it, okay? It's not gonna up your quality or anything at all, but you're seeing a lot of drawbacks in terms of the time and the just overall cumbersomeness of a prime lens. So I mentioned those 3 lenses that I really recommend. Later on, you might want to pick up a longer focal length lens that, you know, you can get detail shots with or even view shots with. Like sometimes it's not the greatest to shoot a view shot with 11 millimeters, right? Or even 15 millimeters. You want to get in a little bit, maybe 50 millimeters on a crop sensor. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next section. All right, so what do I use? I have a D7000 and I also have a D7100, and I sort of use the D7000 as my backup camera, and I have it right in my case, and I have another lens on there, and I just can grab it out of the case when I want to get my exteriors. I have another lens on there which helps me just quickly get those. So that D7100 and that D7000, which is my backup camera, are paired with a Tokena 11-16, and then I also have a Sigma 18-35, which is just honestly like the nicest piece of glass you can practically get for a crop sensor. It's a great lens. The Sigma 18-35, I shoot most of my exteriors with it, and I'll shoot a lot of my video with it. Like right now I'm shooting video with it. And I also do a lot of things like shoot my plates with it for when I get sky shots and stuff like that. It's just a great piece of equipment and I love it. And I'm starting to shoot more of my interiors with it on different types of jobs, sometimes for real estate, but also for other types of work. I'll use it a lot. That 18 millimeters, I think for me, is a really nice sweet spot where you're not getting any distortion, and I really think you should consider this lens in the future. But for now, just look into getting one of those Tokena 11-16, 11-20, or the Tamron 10-24. Make sure you got a lens profile dialed in for those, and you'll be good to go for now. So in the future, and you guys should be thinking about this too, I'll probably pick up a D500, and then the D7100 will be my backup body, right? That's just how it's gonna work for you guys. I kind of like to buy the bodies that are a little bit older, like 1 or 2 generations older. And like, for example, I think the D500 is an amazing camera. When it gets superseded by something and it comes down to about 1,000 or 800, I'm gonna pick one up, and that's gonna be my main camera. I'm also currently using a Nikon 50mm 1.8 lens, and that lens allows me to get really tight and kind of blur out the background and a lot of my detail shots, and I really love using that lens with just the natural light in the home and shooting at around that 1.8 aperture. I think it gives the photo set a really great feel. So don't forget in the future to think about picking up one of these lenses that you want to use for your details.